Hey, welcome to the CTO Studio. This week we're talking to Vladimir Baranov about multiple topics, including rockets, co-founders, and remote teams. Oh, and world peace. Stay tuned.
Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hey, welcome to the CTO Studio, Vladimir Baranov.
That's very nice pronunciation at the end.
Thank you. Can you pronounce my last name?
No, because I just forgot it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I can pronounce your first name very nicely.
You do.
It's like Etienne.
Etienne, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So do you live in San Diego or in New York?
I live 75% in San Diego these days, and I have to travel for about a month to New York.
And it happens to be exactly when we have our forum meetings.
Exactly.
Did you plan it that way? Or?
Well, I planned it the other way. It just happens that the travel becomes uncertain and it overlays the time when I have to see you again.
So you're building AdvisorEngine?
Yes. We are building a company which helps financial advisors manage their clients, grow their net worth that they're managing, and also to facilitate better advice for the clients that they're managing money for.
And do you, so is your customer the financial advisor or the larger institutions?
It's both, because larger financial institutions could be conglomerates of multiple financial advisors. So we would serve individual financial advisors, like 3-4 member firms, usually anything above 250 million under management.
Okay, and so let's take, for instance, Prudential.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a Prudential office in Mission Valley.
Yes.
With 12 advisors.
Yes.
Would that office independently decide to purchase your software, or does Prudential decide everyone's using it?
For most conglomerates, the central mothership decides what software they're going to use, mostly because they get the bulk discounts and all the support. Individual shops generally do not do it. Like individual shops for Prudentials or any other conglomerates, they're like more franchise of that organization, and they get all the software and they get all the tools, and it makes no sense for them to spend extra money to get additional tools.
Okay, and so do you aggregate data and then add value to that? Is that, if I can distill it down, so do you have data sources that you aggregate and then present in a pretty way?
That is...
I mean, that's a gross oversimplification.
No, you're really good at that. You're
good at gross.
Well, it's basically that, except that you have 1,000 sources, and maybe on top of that you have lots of business rules. I'm going to tell you straight up, like, wealth management is not mathematically complex, but it is complex when it comes to legal, compliance, financial regulations, which you have to follow in order to provide good advice. It is also full of psychology of individual investor, because these days, no financial advisor can actually tell you that this portfolio will bring you everything you wanted and will give you like the highest rates. The goal of financial advisor, number one, is to be a psychologist, to understand what is a portfolio appropriate for the person who they're serving their needs for, and can they live with this level of risk. And that's called fiduciary responsibility. That's once that portfolio is picked, and it's appropriate to the risk of the client. Fiduciary responsibility of financial advisor is to keep that portfolio in line with the same risk as the time proceeds.
So something I find annoying about our financial advisor is that they keep on wanting to talk to me.
Well, you probably have too much money in your account, and they're not getting the most out of it.
That's the nicest thing I've heard all day, man. Yeah, so the challenge is, I'm realizing now that they probably want to build relationships so that they can understand these psychological parameters.
That's probably their number one goal. Their number two goal is also to explore if there's any accounts out there that they're not managing they could make part of the portfolio. Because I'm sure your contract, as a majority for financial advisors these days, are charged based on percentage of assets under management. So perhaps not just checking in with you, they're also interested in bringing in outside assets under their management.
Okay, so outside assets meaning they're not.
Well, let's say you manage with them just your IRA account.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And
they want to add more assets to
exactly. And you have, let's say, a reverse mortgage somewhere, and you also have maybe physical assets. Maybe you have a private island off the coast of South Africa. I mean, everybody does.
That is a private conversation we had.
Well, no, that was about the other island.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to move islands now. So you're a co-founder.
I'm a co-founder.
How did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
I think it was more decided for me to a degree.
By the universe, or?
Wow. No, I think for aggregation of other human minds to be in a situation where I was given a choice and I made one.
Okay, cool.
My goal overall is to be a CTO of a startup. Like the industry in the moment was not very particulate. So when I decided to venture out into the world, I said that I want to get that experience. And through circumstances, through a sequence of events, I ended up in a place where, okay, so there is an opportunity to be a co-founder of a small, very small, I think it was like 2-3 people at the time, CTO of like basically chief developer. When you have 2-3 people of a startup which is in wealth management.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like when I became CTO of my company, I wasn't particular about the industry. I just wanted to build stuff and build a team and ultimately build a startup.
Right.
So when you joined, did you inherit any code base or did you start from scratch?
There was some. So we are basically right now in B2B space, where we offer robo-advisor and also an extensive client management suite. At the time, there was only the robo-advisor. It had 2,000 lines code base in Python, and that's what I have inherited, so I could build on top of that.
So does the robo-advisor, does that consume data and then just make it available? I mean, what is that?
Robo-advisor is the automatic part of the risk alignment of your appetite with the portfolio that you will get. Typically, it consists of questions which can assess your risk appetite. Like, for example, if the market goes down 20%, what is your reaction? Like, you don't do anything. Do you buy more? Do you sell everything, or you sell just a little bit? That gives a financial advisor an indication. And it could be numeric, 0.5, 0.4, whatever.
Is that a standard? Is there a standard way to assess that?
No. It's like an investment philosophy. There is no standard. Like there is a standard when it comes to risk. Let's say some instruments are perceived riskier than others. Like, for example, you're not going to put your retirement money into Bitcoin unless you have a time machine and you put it in 2013, which is very different.
You're supposed to preface that statement by saying you're not a financial advisor, right? Because someone might now literally have taken that as advice.
That's, I believe that is true.
For the record, Vladimir is not giving any financial advice.
I believe I have to say that. For the record, I'm not giving any financial advice.
So does part of these data streams, these thousands of data sources, thousands.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Proverbially speaking. Does that include like the NASDAQ and sort of real-time trading data?
Actually, no. Okay. Wealth management is oriented towards long-term goals, 5, 10, 15 years away. And typically, wealth managers are not orienting themselves as the hedge fund managers who are chasing monthly and quarterly returns. So they can actually talk about long-term priorities for the client. And that's why they seek relationship more versus like analyzing financial data sets and looking for the next investment opportunity. For them, it's more important that their clients' goals are aligned. It's a long-term relationship versus hedge funds where it's 1 or 2 years in and out.
So how do wealth managers get paid?
Most of them get paid off the percentage of the AUM, assets under management.
And is it an annual gain or a quarterly or?
It depends on the firm.
Okay.
We have our own proprietary billing engine, and some can bill monthly, some bill arrears for the time that they've worked, or some bill ahead of time, some bill on quarterly basis, some biannually. Rarely do you see somebody bill on an annual basis.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the CTO journey. So it sounds like you have a pretty spread out team, right?
Yes. So our team is actually located in several states, more than 2. I guess that makes it several. And we also have an offshore team in Eastern Europe doing some of the development.
And the 2 states being California and New York? Or?
California, New York, and North Carolina. We have recently acquired a CRM application.
Okay.
And it's located in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And where is your team in California? In San Diego?
In San Diego, it's in a co-working space, and the team consists of myself, and also we have 2 sales representatives working out of California to support our West Coast clients. So,
what are you? So you wanted to be the CTO of a startup back then. So how do you feel today? Are you excited? What have you learned? Because it's been how many years now with AdvisorEngine?
I believe it's been 4.5.
So give us some 4.5-year assessments.
When you are doing something that you were not doing before, you identifying and defining what you thought you were doing, and you're changing the definition of what it was. One thing that I want to preface is that every CTO's role is different. So the role that I'm doing is labeled CTO, but it's not necessarily the same thing that other members of other teams are doing out there. Especially when it comes to one of the heaviest aspects that a lot of, I believe, startups do not have to face, especially outside of financial areas like compliance. 30% of my thinking time goes to how can we make sure that our security controls, SOX, ISO compliance, how do we make sure we pass that? So that's just general auditing.
Did you say that's 30% of your time?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. In addition to
that, it's gotta suck though.
Well, what you do learn a lot of legal, a lot of finance, a lot of GDPR stuff. It's very useful to view in the world. Obviously, it's not techie, but I think a CTO stops being techie when they become CTOs. Yeah. They can have ideas about tech, but most of that is implemented by developers who actually know what they're doing.
What do you tell a CTO who thinks that they should be pushing production code?
Well, if it's a team of 3, then go ahead and do that. If it's a team of 10 and they do it every day, then I don't think that's the right allocation of the resources. Because if that time should be spent on providing feedback and providing help to others. One of the good friends of mine shared a book with me called Multipliers. And that's where I see a lot of managers' roles is that you no longer, once you become a manager, most likely the percentage of time you devote to doing hands-on work reduces significantly. What do you do with the rest of your time? Do you order people around doing what they're doing? Or do you start strategizing in a way, how can you make everybody who is working with you or for you many times better? How can you take the mountain down, which prevents most of your team from succeeding more? And how do you make them more effective? And if, let's say, the CTO of a large organization pushes code to production, let's hypothetically say more than 10% of the time, that 10% time could provide a lot more value by helping others achieve their own potential.
And there's also the cost of modeling that behavior and the unintended consequence, where people may feel that there's no trust, or that they can't review or challenge that, sort of there's that.
Potentially.
Sort of
I actually perceive your question more is that you have like a friendly cowboy sort of CTO in the sense they know what they're doing. It's just something they want to continue doing with their time.
And that's how I meant it. But I'm saying even there, your team could perceive it as well. Well, the CTO did the push, so how much can I challenge this? How do I reject the code review?
But that's you're assuming that actual PR was down and it's not code was changed in production right there.
Well, that's true. So I got to a stage where my team just said to me, "Please stop."
Oh, is that you were doing that?
Yeah,
Okay.
So in my growth as a
All right,
CTO,
thank you, Etienne. Okay, this is over.
in my growth path as a CTO, I mean, I guess I just became one, and I started the product from scratch. Blank VI session, started coding, and I guess when I got to employee number,
Wait, not even Vim, just VI?
I did VI.
Okay. Black and white?
Vim, yeah, black and white. Vim was for the. I never went with Vim because the bindings wouldn't necessarily work on any Unix terminal, so I didn't want to get all crazy with my shortcuts. So, blank VI session, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. But I think when I got to employee number 9 or 10, I just realized almost circumstantially that I was inhibiting my team because I was now taking on cards and tasks to, okay, I'll do it. I'll do the media transcoding. I'll do the queuing, the messaging, because I thought, well, that's what I would do, is sort of lead by example, and realized that was becoming counterproductive.
That's good. That's growth.
Thank you.
I guess I'm
It was
glad
tough.
that your team did not corner you and like took out their forks.
I mean, it was almost, it was an event like that, but it took an event like that for me to actually realize it. As you know, we have our heads down, and you don't know how much progress you've made because you're just heads down working, and then you look up and you're like, oh shit, my team didn't follow me. I'm by myself. Or my team's over there and I went over there.
Well, right, that's what happens when you work between 2 and 7 a.m. in the morning.
So do you have anything to tell me about whales?
Whales? Actually a lot. I see you.
Interesting.
You made some notes. Well, I have a few t-shirts with whales.
Okay.
But that's not the reason why you're asking. My fiance is doing a PhD program at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and she's doing whale acoustics research. I find it incredibly fascinating because it touches every part of science and engineering that we know as humans in order to be successful in that field. So as an engineer, it's very interesting for me that what they do is they go out into the ocean and then place underwater microphones, which collect data over a prolonged period of time. The data gets collected, put into the servers, and then artificial intelligence and machine learning analyzes that data for sounds, attributes them to specific mammals, be that whales or dolphins or other type of mammals. I don't have enough names for them. She can tell you better. And then use that data to model abundance of those species across the ocean floor. All those steps require deep knowledge of chemistry, deep knowledge of biology, engineering, underwater engineering, acoustics, signal processing, all the modeling stuff like programming with R and MATLAB, and then writing all the papers, actually knowing how to write. If I'm an engineer who actually writes a paper,
I know, it's crazy.
It takes a very special type of person to do that.
Yeah, and but how does the whale play into that? Because I can see if they want to sort of identify species and all that, but so the whale acoustics, is it literally the animal? Or
Yes, it's literally an animal, and whale. There are many different species of whale. There are many different subspecies of whale. And one of the fun facts that I usually like to say is that we've heard more species of whales than we actually have seen with our naked eyes.
Wow.
Mostly because
crazy.
mostly because we just don't have people out there in the ocean looking at things
because
around.
the sound travels. And
Sound travels, definitely. But ocean covers a huge surface of our planet.
It's like the equivalent of taking a microphone, sticking it into a dark room,
Well,
and listening. And
except the room filled with something that things can float. So it becomes three-dimensional. It's like whales, but they're above the water and they can float.
That's crazy.
So it's harder to spot things which when they're not restrained very much by
Are
gravity.
they trying to decipher some sort of vocabulary or?
To a degree, but I guess to my disappointment, there isn't really not that much language going on outside of, let's say, dolphins. Like whales generally only like sing songs or make sounds, but they don't.
Whales?
Yes. But the songs do not really carry too much meaning. Like they're not reciting Shakespeare. It's more like, hey, food over here, or hey, I need to procreate,
Wow.
No, so not very sophisticated. While dolphins' clicks have been interpreted to actually change between different groups of dolphins. Let's say if you're grading a specific dolphin, a specific group of dolphins, their clicks will change. So that's been spotted. But I don't have more details.
No, it's good. I listened to a TED talk the other day about animals and sort of their interspecies relation. Well, their relationships within the species, and sort of the morality and the communication that happens, and just wondering about that. If maybe your fiance had some insight into the relationships between these mammals.
Oh, she absolutely does. I don't, but for the next podcast, I strongly recommend.
Well, I have you on so that I can get her on.
I see. Listen, that was very, very smart. Very smart.
I finally did meet her, so she's a real person.
She is.
Did she like the event?
Oh, she absolutely liked it.
What are your thoughts on blockchain?
Oh, that was after the part of where with cheese and beer. So like after that, it was not as much. No, she is. Well, one thing is she came out, so she's interested in understanding what that is. I mean, I also don't completely understand the whole space. But one of the things I definitely liked was the music aspect of it, and also the live coding. I've seen live coding before, but I don't think I've seen live coding with music in the background at the same time. Because as a show, I think it was very. It was fulfilling to all the senses. Like in a sense, if you're just watching somebody code, your attention and your focus might disappear, and you'll start checking your own phone while somebody else code. But once you're engaging the ears and engaging musically, you're feeling that void. So a person is present and actually is saying the code and also listening to music at the same time.
I wonder how much of that had to do with the live sort of the what do you call it when you rap?
Improvisation.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Because I was trying to find out what he was going to say next. I agree. I mean, initially my idea was to just have someone code the smart contract, just in 20 quick minutes, but narrate what they're doing.
Yeah. I think it's difficult.
Yeah. I'm really happy that my team suggested that we add the School of Rap to that.
Well, you should pay your team more.
I should. They did invoice me. Sucks. Tell me about. So your co-founder are they in New York or?
One of our co-founders is he's now on the board of directors. He is actually in London now.
Okay.
Like he's following all the latest AI and blockchain innovations.
Okay.
And he's publishing a newsletter. And the other two co-founders are in New York. So our CEO, Rich Kenker, he's still running the company. So he's definitely in New York. And
do you work out of a like a co-working space in New York, or?
No, in New York we do have an actual office.
Okay. How large is the company?
So we're about 200 people now.
Crazy.
Totally.
And your dev team?
Probably 40-ish. Like it changes from day to day.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when CTO becomes a coder, it's like +1, -1.
+1, -1.
Yeah.
And how many of those are outsourced? Or the 40?
I'd say maybe 50%.
Okay. And how do you decide what you're outsourcing and what you're keeping in house as a CTO?
We're actually doing a bit of a. So we're going through different transitions. We went through different transitions. As that initially, we had a fully outsourced team, mostly because of the.
That's when you started, right?
When we started, mostly because we had cost constraints associated with the startup experience. Eventually, we were able to raise enough money to start hiring internal people. Some of the things that we had to improve over time is facilitating knowledge exchange between all the developers. And especially in wealth management and accounting and compliance, some of the terminology is hard to translate even if you know the language well, because some of the concepts have not been actually taught in the country, so they don't exist. Like, for example, in Eastern Europe, some of the countries don't have an understanding of wealth management because from Soviet time and from the socialist time, you had an expectation of that the state will support you when you retire. So there is not such a thing as wealth advisor. There are savings accounts, but
yes.
there is no idea of that. You take your wealth, you give it to wealth advisor, and they manage it for you. I don't know if that's because there is no actual wealth to give away, or it's just a cultural attribute of the country, where you just spend your paycheck and you don't allocate anything for a rainy day because the government does that for you. So we are working with such a set of developers where you have to translate not just the product you're working on, but also the concept of the whole thing and try to connect it with their day-to-day life. And we found it's a little bit easier if you have a representative of a development team in the States or in a country that we're working out of, who can, let's say, understand it first and then translate it to developers and team that they're working on. So we move now towards more hybrid teams. We have some presence in the States and we have some presence in Eastern Europe.
Okay, and that's fascinating. So you're saying, that's just a paradigm that doesn't exist for them, for at least this generation. So that then directly affects productivity and understanding because you're having to train them on concepts that really is not a part of the society.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you, with a team of 40, do you have like a VP of engineering or how do you manage your direct reports?
I see. What we have gone to a system where each of our teams has a lead. So that's sort of a mini lead there. And then we have scrums where we get together and we talk about things.
And so do you do one-on-ones?
I do one-on-ones, but not necessarily with everybody in the company.
No.
Right.
But do you do it then with those leads?
We do with some of the leads, and with us, we also had as part of our merge with acquisition of Juncture, we also had Team Betts joined as a CIO. So some of our responsibilities split between me and him, and some of the one-on-ones he is taking care of, and other ones I do.
Would you say that your product is feature rich now? Are you done with features?
No. So again, wealth management is very much about business rules and processes, and a lot of like every single wealth management shop has their own. Some of them are overlapping. I mean, that's why we have big products, but little things which make a specific wealth advisor, wealth management that special are aligned to their clients. So we kind of had to take that into consideration. And it's very basic. Like, for example, do you want to send like email right after the application has been completed? How frequently do you want to send alerts? Do you want to send alerts to on which occasions? Or like, do you want to sum up all accounts numbers or only some of them? Do you want to bill some of the accounts or only partially? Can you assign like a different billing schedule to each of the sub accounts? And it's like it's very simple from if you take one thing, like you just take a simple multiplication, say, okay, you only pay 0.25% annually, and this is the number. Okay. But what if the account comes into the management, then it comes out, then another one comes in? It just starts growing.
And is that where you're playing more of a consultative role then?
As a company, or as
you in your role?
Well, myself, because I physically cannot handle all of the features, but just because I was involved from the beginning on a lot of them, I can advise of what they might be bound, or what's the best way to implement them technically. But I do not do the hands-on.
No, you don't do the hands-on. But the team that builds that ultimately reporting to you.
No.
Oh, okay. No.
That would ultimately report right now to the team.
Okay, Tim.
I do not pronounce those words very distinctly.
The T and the I and the M.
Exactly.
Okay, so Tim is a human.
Yeah, team is a human. Yeah, is it? No, I don't know how to pronounce them. I haven't learned it.
But is it the letters T, I, and M?
T-I-M and T-E-A-M.
Oh, team and Tim.
There you go.
I don't do well with those either.
Okay, so which one is the shorter one?
The two foreigners who.
Which?
Oh, so you're saying the team handles that?
Yeah.
Or Tim handles that?
Tim. So you're saying Tim is a because we okay. So let's figure it out. So which one do you think? The T-I-M is the shorter one, and T-A-M is the longer one?
Yes.
Team versus Tim?
Yes.
Do you know if you're right?
I can't figure it out. I guess the context is my enemy here, because you're saying no, Tim is responsible for that.
But that's you're assuming that that's the word of which I want to say.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think we should stick to chat, like Slack.
Yes. So in other words, Tim is the CIO.
Yes.
Okay. Good. That's great. Do you have any advice for CEOs, CTOs building out their companies? Some crucial lessons you've learned. You've evolved in the last 5 years, obviously, as a business leader / tech leader. What would you say are the sort of the top milestones, or what are some of the growth milestones you had to go through to become, hopefully a better leader? And obviously we've never arrived, but do you have any sort of points?
This is the kind of questions you send ahead of time, so you can prepare and be like fantastic as you answer it. So there is probably a lot of things I can advise. Probably stopping things that don't work earlier, as it goes with business and with any projects that are going on. Making faster decisions on things that could be painful. Sorry, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. And so with the CEO, that's really a function of your relationship with the CEO, right?
Well, there's like many different things. It's so one of the things that I definitely learned is that it's hard to do hands-on work and management work at the same time. No matter how good you are, it's really hard to structure your mind. So the solution there would be is that hire somebody who will work for you, who will be doing actual development, and you can focus on management, or hire somebody who will be interacting with the CEO, be that a product person or be that a strategist person, who will be able to basically buffer the interruptions which require which are very inhibiting to great engineering.
Did you learn that the hard way though, or did
I think we're all learned that the hard way.
And so how did you and your CEO navigate those growth points where maybe your CEO said, "Wow, man, I wish you would stop, being hands-on so much"? I mean, did you get that mentorship from your CEO? Did you mentor your CEO in some situations? And I ask this because, as I grew our company, we were 3 partners. It was tough.
I think it's definitely tough, mostly because we don't have a manual for being humans, and we don't have the manual of how to talk to each other. We kind of try to figure it out on our own based on the role models that we either see in the movies or from our own parents or relatives. And in the movies, things just generally work out because a lot of details are being dropped. When it comes to real life, the only way to operate is through either your own experience, and also to understand that your experience could be completely invalid, or somebody else's experience, but also trying to explain to the other person that their experience might be invalid. And what I like to now these days, and this is probably one of the advice what I would give, is that I like to start off my relationships with new people or new teams with agreement of mutual vulnerability, in a sense that we can all screw up very badly. We're also, none of us know everything. We have our own temperament and we have our own approaches, but we're here to fail together. But we're also here to succeed together. But we need to fix things where that are not working very well together.
So does that mean, I love that. I mean, that mutual vulnerability is my love language. Does that mean that you choose to reveal to your CEO when you're upset with a decision or you're struggling with a certain strategy?
Yeah, I think in a startup, there is no room for politics. I think if you have a very small team, as soon as you start playing in politics, the team falls apart. Politics, I think, do have place in larger organizations. Over, I don't know what that number starts, maybe 500,000, maybe 200, maybe 100, but definitely much larger number than 2, 3, 5 people. Because you cannot hide. You cannot hide from the decision. You cannot hide it from immediate reaction of your people where your decision is not good. It's instantly noticeable.
So how do they cope with your commute?
Well, technically, I don't have the commute. I just work remotely in the same time zone. So that's been very helpful. And we have multiple teams like across the world. So me being in a different...
But as an executive and as a co-founder, I mean, certainly it's not that straightforward. I mean, do you guys just talk like 4 or 5 times a day? Do you not talk? Do you only sync up once a week? I'd love to know how one manages a co-founder relationship.
Oh, I see.
With all the nuances.
Well, I haven't started remotely. Like that's probably
so
referring. I spent already with the company 2 years, so I don't think I would recommend starting remote relationships for like small companies. But it might work out in a sense, because mostly if you have an idea, the people who want to work an idea might not be located together. It might work in the very beginning, but I'd say not version 0.1, but between 0.1 and 1.0, it has to be very tight collaboration where I could imagine that very tight conversations and close interactions would be very helpful to success.
Yes. So today, though, what mechanism do you and your CEO and C-suite have in place to keep guaranteeing the mutual vulnerability and to keep staying on the same page in such a sort of intentional way when you're gone?
Well, I'm not gone. I'm definitely present, and a lot of our C-suite individuals are just in different places right now. Frequent phone calls, conversations. We have a lot of team meetings, scrums.
Tim does what? So yes, I know you're not gone. Depends on how we define it.
Yeah, I understand.
But I think the non-verbal communication, being in the same office, the nurturing the relationship, I think there's something to be said for that. But what you're saying is you had that in the first 2 years.
I had that in the first 2 years, and also you have video chat, so you can definitely judge a person of how they are reacting, and the internet has been really fast, so you don't get pixelated interactions many times. So you can use that, and occasional visits give you an opportunity to learn about the person. If you've never met a person, absolutely, you have to go out and go greet them, take a line.
I'm specifically talking about most companies fail because of co-founder conflict. Well, That's what I read.
I think
And in order,
I think most companies just fail.
okay. So in order to keep that vibe going with the co-founders, it's okay. What are we doing to build a relationship? And what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is there's enough technology tools, video, conversation. You fly out there once a month.
Yes.
So that within that paradigm, you are all doing great.
But let me take that apart a little bit. When you said that when co-founders disagree, I'm actually gonna push on that and say maybe they have not agreed in the first place. As they started talking to each other and unearthing what kind of business they wanted to build, they realized probably they're not good for each other.
Yeah.
Probably the same thing with
Possibly
relationships in general.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we don't explore enough about our future partners, be that in business or life, and we say, "Oh, it's just gonna whatever things come, we'll stress test the relationship and we'll see where it goes."
Oh.
Sure, you can do it that way, but if you do it that way, that means that you'll be investing time into a relationship which eventually might not work out. We don't know right away if the relationship will work out, but it has to be some sort of investment or an agreement, a social contract with somebody who is will spend probably more time than at home in order to make the business successful. So again, with as business or relationships, try to figure out how to fail faster, how to cut those losses faster, and say like I don't think we're working out.
Yeah.
Like I think we want to build totally different things. You want to build a spaceship, and I want to build just like a solar airplane.
Yeah. I think that's very helpful because you're right. I do think it's possible that the conflict surfaces where people might be saying it's because of X, but it's actually because of sort of A, B, C, D, E, F foundation that hasn't really been addressed.
It's just a bad fit.
Yeah. It's possible.
And the one more thing, I think, and this is not a statistics, a lot of people go into business either from the same class or being friends, or being related, and without understanding the other person's way of doing business or doing projects. And when they actually start doing real things, they find out that either both of the people or three people, whoever is doing it, cannot do that, or the other person does it, and expectations change, and you start changing opinion of the person.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a marriage where you're choosing, or a long-term relationship where you're choosing to work with the changes in your partner.
Yes, but that's a little bit different. I feel like that's more like surface changes. Here, where you're finding out more fundamental things which you have not actually ask the question.
So do you and your co-founder co-founders, do you have a mechanism that you use to make sure that you're sort of all still on the same page, headed towards in the same direction? Is it an annual retreat or?
I think, well, I think every time I come over, it's a retreat. Well, at least for me, it's just just
frequent sync ups, like
frequent sync ups.
Is this still what you want for the company? Is this still what you had in mind? Do our values still align? Are we seeking the same outcome?
Well, it's also I think we're closer to each other as far as understanding how the world works. It doesn't mean that our opinion is right. It's just similar. And there are people out there who think about the world a little bit differently, and their opinion is also right. And even though I want to communicate in the same way you're communicating to me right now, between different parts of our organization, there needs to be abstractions which translate that sort of information, that sort of meta information into the words, into actions that other people understand.
So just to wrap up, you're in San Diego because of your fiance, right?
Yes.
Can you do you feel like you're part of two tech scenes? Or do you feel like you're mostly just part of New York's tech scene? You just...
I don't think I ever considered myself to be part of a scene. I feel that just keeping touch with latest and the greatest is something part that each CEO has to be participating in, and be that on West Coast, be that on East Coast, be that in beautiful San Diego. I think that because we're so global these days, it's that we seek guidance everywhere. Obviously, it's very nice to go to meet up and meet people who are like-minded. There's definitely a lot more opportunity with that San Francisco and New York, but I haven't found lack of that in San Diego.
Yeah, no, I do consider myself part of the global tech scene.
South Africa mostly, right?
No.
Well, I mean that island of yours, you know.
Yes. Now I've got to go change my address. Vlad, that was great.
Well, we didn't ask you any questions.
Do you have any questions for me?
What's going on with the startup? Why are you doing it?
What startup?
Oh, sorry, did I say startup? I meant to say podcast.
Oh.
My caching
It's pretty simple. I'm on a mission twofold. One is to CTOs aren't self-promoters in general. I think it's just part of the personality type. So I think there's so much that we do, in our heads and in our teams, but the idea of promoting that outside, just listening to you speak about just stuff that's like, well, why is he asking me about this? But I think there's a lot of people listening who need to hear, how do I manage with a co-founder that's across the country? How do I decide between outsourcing? So to get CTOs to talk about what they're doing. But what I'm enjoying more now, being sort of deep into this, is I'm having the types of conversations with people that I want to have, and so I think that represents in a way the tech community, the tech leadership community. So on the show, I have product managers, entrepreneurs, and so I think from my perspective, representing the community, asking the questions and getting their perspectives, I think has been incredibly enlightening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm loving it. I'm really loving it.
Cool. So you just growing your little bubble, gathering people who are only like yourselves.
Growing my little bubble. That's why I love talking to Vlad. That's why he scheduled him for this time slot. Well, when I have no more defenses left. I offered beer and he said, no, I want to be fresh and awake and when I address some issues. What are like some of the top issues on your mind right now?
World peace. I mean, we have Dennis Rodman solving international relationships.
Something to be proud of.
While promoting Bitcoin token. Yes. I think it's like Potcoin or something like that. I think missions to Mars. I'm very excited about the two CubeSats which went out, Marco A and B. I think that it's phenomenal that such technology could have been miniaturized and they were able to launch them. And if they survive to Mars, it opens up such an opportunity for a lot of companies on our planet to actually start experimenting. Many already do, but a lot of CubeSats have never left our immediate orbit. This is like one of the first times when small satellites, now no bigger than like a basketball size, they're going to be going to Mars. They're already going to Mars, and they're going to be relaying information from the lander. And if that's successful, that could be a prototype for a lot of Earthbound teams to create some of their own.
And are you going to be on that mission to Mars?
Probably not on the first one.
But you're planning on going?
It could be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think I'm aligning there a little bit with Mr. Musk, where he would like to die on planet Mars, just not on impact.
Okay, Vlad, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Etienne. That's great.
Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to the ctostudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or two for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.